Hey everyone, Nick Genetakis here. In this video, let's talk a little bit about managing your development environment with Tmux and Vim. So if you're pretty new to this combination, it kind of gets a little bit confusing on, when you should use Tmux sessions or windows or split panes, or maybe when you should open up Vim and split some buffers, or maybe should you open up multiple instances of Vim, should you use virtual desktops? Like, there's so many different possible ways to separate your development environment. And I pretty much eat, live, and breathe the terminal because I'm a freelance developer, and I pretty much do this full time. If I'm not doing that, then I'm making courses. But basically, I'm in Vim a lot, I'm in Tmux a lot. Basically, like 90% of my time in Windows is actually in this window that we're looking at over here, which is WSLTTY, which is the terminal program, which is running Vim. Well, right now it's not running Vim, right now it's not running Tmux, but that's what this video is about. It's basically going to be a guide and kind of like what I do. So it's not the single source of truth on like the best way to set up your development environment and manage different projects, but I do use this full time and I am very happy with the results. So in this terminal now, I'm actually not running Tmux yet. And I had to create a couple example sessions here because I can't really show the projects that I'm working on in video because they're not my projects. Like I have a couple that are mine, but I can't really leak out client information on video. So what I did is I killed my Tmux server, and then I just created 3 separate sessions here, apples, bananas, and oranges. And these really would emulate different projects that you're working on. So I like to go with the approach of having 1 Tmux session per project that I'm working on. So let's say, like, what is a project? So like right now, I'm developing a course hosting platform on the side, which I do plan to open source, and I'm going to be using it to serve all of my courses instead of a third-party platform. To me, that is one project. Then I'm working on this Flask contract for someone. That is a totally separate project. That would be bananas, whereas like my course hosting platform would be apples. And then in oranges, that's like another contract that I'm working on. So right now, having a session isolation for each project is really nice because now you can just do Tmux attach T, and then you can attach to whatever session that you want. There we go. So in this case, like I just opened up 1 instance of Vim here, and I split that up just using vsplit a couple times because right now I'm zoomed in a heck of a lot for the video, but realistically, well, let me just hit that combo in my terminal. It's a lot smaller to read now, but you see this little gray dash here? That is the 80 character marker. So we can see a gray dash on the left, in the middle, and the right. Basically, when I'm really coding and working on a project, I usually have 3 buffers open, and it really depends on what I'm working on, but maybe on the left-hand side will be some like controller code, maybe the middle would be like a template, and then maybe on the right would be some tests or like whatever I happen to be working on. And then sometimes I even split these even again, not in a column, but horizontally. So I have a grid of 6 things, but that can make me feel a little claustrophobic. So I don't do that too often. But basically the idea is, well, let me zoom back in so we can read this here. We can no longer see 80 characters because I'm zoomed in a lot. But if you look down here on the left, you can see I have 2 Tmux windows open. So we're looking at Tmux window number 1. And if I hit a hotkey now we're looking at Tmux window 2. And we can also see here that this terminal is split in half. That's using the terminal panes feature, right? These are split panes. So if I go back to 1 here, this is 1 instance of Vim with multiple buffers running. And sometimes I'll even actually open up like different tabs in Vim. So this is a really great feature that isn't in too many code editors. But if you take a look up here, it's like, now I have this full screen, README file open because there's only a README file in this project. But if I jump over to this tab over here, there's the original split buffer with 3 different copies of the file. This would obviously be different files, but it's really nice. Like if you're working on maybe like, controller, like whatever, let's just go like model view and controller, right? Like those are 3 distinct files that you could be editing. But maybe in the second tab, you can have like maybe a Docker Compose file, a Docker file in the middle, and maybe like an environment file on the right. So now it's like you have these 2 like groupings of, different sets of functionality that are important to your project, but you probably don't want to be editing all of those things side by side. but you don't want to have to like organize your Vim buffers every time you want to switch from like editing your models to, editing like, a Docker Compose YAML file. So using Vim tabs to kind of encapsulate different types of files is really great. I find that to be very, very useful, and I very frequently have at least 2 or 3 tab groups open, and then within there I have, either 2 or 3 like actual Vim buffers. So that's kind of how I separate my, development environment, like when I'm actually working on a specific project. But then if I jump over here to the second Tmux window, this is really where, like on the left-hand side, I'll run my web server. Typically that's where I do like a Docker Compose up. And then if it's running like a Phoenix app or a Flask app or a Rails app or a Node app or a Django app, like the web server would be running over here on the left. And then on the right-hand side, I'm free to run any commands that I want to run on demand. Maybe I'll do like a Docker Compose exec web and then like execute my tests, or maybe run some linting program or a code formatter, basically whatever needs to be run. So I kind of like that setup, because really I don't need like a full screen for seeing like the log output. Like splitting it in half, especially when this terminal window isn't zoomed in so much, I can see very good, logs all come out on one line, and it's very nice. But another great thing too about Tmux is like, let's say that you're working on some like interactive terminal here on the right, and you decide that you want it to be full screen because maybe, there's just a lot of characters that you want to see. Like notice the Z there, like I just did my leader key Z to zoom out, to zoom in, to zoom out. Like you can always do that if you want. So really the end goal here is like I have one session, and then I have multiple Tmux windows. Right now there's only 2, but some projects I have 3. So like for example, my personal blog, it's a Jekyll site. So usually what I do is, I'll have this type of view here where I'm writing my blog post, usually not with 3 files open because it's just one blog post at a time. But window number 1 will be where I'm editing my blog post. Window number 2 would be where I run the Jekyll server, which would typically be over here. Usually it's not even split in half because there's not really too many commands that I'd want to run. And then what I actually do is I open up a third window, and like I'll just, I'll move into a different directory that's not my, my Jekyll website. Like I'll move into an Ansible directory because I just run a static site on DigitalOcean. Like that's how my blog is being hosted, and I deploy that using Ansible. So like I'll just jump to a third window here, and when I want to deploy the site, I just run a simple Ansible command, which really like I just have to hit the up arrow and hit enter, and that command's ready to run because all the Tmux history is saved, and that is great. So like that's pretty much how to manage your projects. Really, it comes down to how you want to do it. But now, and actually, before I wrap this up, like let's say that you want to switch to a different project, and like this is really, really, really where Tmux shines. Like right now, we're dealing with the Apples project, right? Apples are cool, but I just hit leader S here, the Tmux shortcut leader S, and this will bring up a list of all of your sessions. And if you hit the up and down arrows, you can even see a preview on the bottom there of like what this session is composed of. So let's say that let's say Apples was my blog, and whatever, I wrote the blog post and I published it with Ansible, and now I want to switch over to working on the course platform, which is Bananas or whatever, right? So now I would just choose Bananas from the list here, and we have a completely fresh Tmux session. Like right now I only have one window open, and you can see here, I don't even have Vim open or whatever, but this would be my code editor, and I would just open up, multiple windows if I need to, and switch between them using the hotkeys here, like leader 1, leader 2, leader 3, etc. And like now I'm working on the course platform. But then maybe, 2 hours after I publish the blog post, someone actually tweets me and they're like, yo, Nick, cool blog post, but you have a typo or whatever. So now, maybe I was working on the course platform and I was checking social media, which is pretty bad to do if you're trying to work. But now I would just go back to my blog and be like, oh yeah, okay, blah, 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 fix my typo, jump over to window 3 here, run the Ansible command to deploy it. And then it's like, boom, I'm back to working on the course platform in this separate session. I really, really like this workflow. And one really nice thing, like as you can see here, I am running Windows, and Windows loves to reboot when you're sleeping to, do some security patches and other BS like that, which doesn't mean you're going to lose all of your Tmux history and your Tmux sessions and all of that fun stuff. But, there is a plugin called Tmux Resurrect, where if you hit your Tmux leader key and then Control S, you can actually save your entire Tmux session, multiple sessions, to, I guess it writes its, its own config file internally. I've never really looked at it, but, when you come back from rebooting, all you do is you load a Tmux session up, and then you hit leader Control R to restore it, and you're back in business. It's like you never left, and all of your sessions will be back. So just to wrap this up, here's a third session, oranges, yay for oranges, and I have a couple of windows open here. That's how easy it is to switch between projects, and that's pretty much what I do full time, and for now it's working out pretty well, I should say. So let me know how it goes in the comments. If you're using sessions and windows and splits and Vim buffers like this, if you're not doing it like this, let me know. If you are doing it like this, like the video, leave a comment, let me know how it goes. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.